Okay, what we're doing here is fractions and estimation. Real quick, if I draw a fraction for you, I usually like to do circles. Don't have to, but I love circles. This is a fraction. If I shade it in, these are halves. If I shade it in using this one, that'll work better. Okay, I'm shading in this portion, this section. This is 1/2. Okay, 1 stands for how many pieces are shaded. It's the numerator, but it often is best to think of how many pieces do you have? And it's the numerator. Sorry, there we go. And the bottom number tells you how many total there are. It also kind of stands for what size. What size or kind. Okay, and that's the denominator. Okay, denominator and the numerator. How many? What kind, what size? Let's say we draw another circle real quick. Let's go for a green again. And this time we draw it with thirds. Okay, there are 3 total that make up the whole, so the size is 3. And if we shade, again, maybe we want to shade a different number this time. Let's shade 2. So we got this one and this one. This is 2. We shaded 2 out of 3. So the numerator is 2. There are 2 pieces out of a total of 3. And notice that each piece is a little bit smaller than they were when you had halves. That's kind of how it works. You've got 1/2, and as the number in the denominator goes up, what size? The bigger the number, the smaller the piece. And most of you have heard that before. Okay, one more circle. Okay, just the introduction to fractions, just for those of you that don't quite remember. What we've got here is fourths. Okay, we've got fourths here. Fourths are good. And notice if we do this time, this is 1/4. But let's just go ahead and do 2/4 again, and we'll see if we see something else. Notice that 1/2 looks like it's the same amount of pizza or pie or cookie as 2/4, and it's true. 1/2 is equal to 2/4. We cut the halves into 2, and now we have 4 of them. So there's twice as many halves and twice as many pieces that are equal to the same amount of pizza. Okay, or pie, or cookies, or cake, or something good. Sometimes my students get mad at me because we seem to have math before lunch, and you get hungry too early. Anyway, that's the basic fractions, numerator and denominator. How you look at them. They're asking us to estimate today, so we're estimating. And there's 2 things you need to know. Fractions are parts of a whole, so you could have 0. Or you could have a whole, which is like 1. Okay, right in the middle is 1/2. Okay, so you have basically 3 choices for estimating fractions. So this is for fractions. You've got half, 0, half, or 1, but we also have something called mixed numbers. And those ones you just round to the nearest whole. So those go to the nearest whole, W-H-O-L-E, the nearest whole pizza. Okay. Now, for instance, with fractions, it's always between 0 and 1, or equal to 1, or equal to 0. Okay, it's 0 up to 1. So everything like that. So we could have 3/4, or we could have 9/37, or we could have 1/99. It doesn't really matter. These are all fractions. They're all less than 1. And they're all bigger than 0. If I wanted to make one equal to 0, I could have 4/13. 0/13 is equal to 0. There's no pieces. 0 pieces there. It's nothing. It doesn't matter if I have 0/13 or if I have 0/100. They're the same amount. Okay. The other one is the ones that are equal to 1, like 3/3. That's the whole thing. That's 1. 4/4 is 1. 99/99 is 1. All of these are 1. Okay, these three, anyway. They add up to 1. That's the whole thing. So if the top number matches the bottom number, or if it's close to it, okay, it's about 1. Okay, so if I had if I had 98/99, that is about equal to 1. If I had 1/99, that is about equal to, this is not quite an equal sign, it means almost, about, similar to, 0. Okay, so this one is almost as big, 98 is almost as big as 99, so that's 1. 1 is almost 0. There's very little here, it's very far away from 99, and so that one is equal to 0. Now if you were right in the middle, it would be around 50, like 48 out of 99. That might round to 1/2. Okay, so those ones are pretty easy. There's some that are a little bit harder. For instance, 3/5. Is that closer to 0? Is that closer to 1/2? Your options are 0, 1/2, or 1. Now if you make yourself a little number line and you cut it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, and you fill in, maybe with a different color like yellow, you've got 1, 2, 3. So half is, this is a little more than half. You can kind of see that this actually rounds to, this rounds to 1/2 pretty well. If we had 2/5, it would probably still round to half. If we had 1/5, it would probably round down to 0. If we had 4/5, it would probably round up to 1. Sometimes there's some close calls that you have to kind of just make a decision on. 2/7 might be one like that. Okay, now 3/7 and 4/7 are both really close to the middle. Now there's no middle of 7. If you have 0 and you have 7 in up, if 0 on one end and 7 on the other end, the middle is like 3.5 or 3 1/2. That's the middle. So 3 is close to 1/2 and 4 is close to 1/2, but somewhere in the middle is actually where 1/2 is, somewhere right between them. Okay, so 2/7 you could round up to 1/2, you could round down to 0, you could kind of take your pick. I would still round it up to 1/2 because it's closer to 1/2 than it is to 0. 2 is 2 away from 0, but it's only 1.5 away from 3.5. Okay, so I think I would still round that up to 1/2, but that's one of the hard ones you just have to kind of work with. Mixed numbers, I started to talk about those. When you are working with fractions that are mixed numbers, that's like 1 1/2, which is like 1 whole pizza plus another half of a 1. So it would be like you'd have 1 whole pizza, leave that one whole, and you have a half of a pizza. It might look like this if we were to erase it. Okay, so kind of complicated, but not too bad. Okay, so 1 1/2 is a mixed number, so you've got a whole pizza and a half. Okay, so what we do is we just round to the nearest whole number, and if you have a half, you round up. So 1 1/2 would round up to 2, because 1/2 is right in the middle. We round up if it's right in the middle. So if you had 37 1/8, that would round down to 37. But if you had 37 6/8, that would round up to 38. See, 6 is a pretty big number compared to 8. It's almost as big as 8. You'd round up. Right in the middle would be 4/8. 37 4/8, which is the same as 1/2. And that would still round up to 38. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. So that's that. We have to talk about real quick about dividing. Actually, I'll just show you a couple problems first when you're multiplying. Say I have 1/3 times 1/2. Well, that's about the same thing as 1/2 times 1/2, which is equal to 1/4. If you had 1/8 times 3/5, that's about, I gotta make that about the same thing as 0 times 1/2, which would be 0. Now, anything times 0 is 0, so whenever you have a fraction that's close to 0, that means that you're going to have about 0 if you're multiplying. Okay, so you have 1/8 of 3/5. This is already less than 1, and you're going to only take a little piece of it. It's like taking a bite out of a cookie and saying, well, how much was that bite? Well, it's hardly anything compared to the whole cookie, especially if it's a big cookie. So you're going to say, well, I really ate about 0 of the cookie. I ate almost none of it because I took 1/8 of the 3/5. So there was only about a half a cookie there, and I took a little bite out of it. Basically, that's what you're saying. Now, if we had another number like, say, 3/8 times 3/5, say 4/5. Scribble that out. Say times 4/5. Now, that's going to really be like 1/2 times 1. 3/8 is close to 1/2. 4/5 is close to 1. And so really you just end up with 1/2 because anything times 1 is itself. So 1/2 times 1 is 1/2. The other options you could have would be possibly something where you have like 4/5 times 5/6. That's basically 1 times 1. It's 1. You're not going to get 2. You're still going to have 1. See, now you're not adding these. Remember, you're multiplying them. So you're taking most of a number that's almost 1. So it's like if you're that eating a cookie example. If there's most of a cookie, there's 5/6 of a cookie, which is most of a cookie. That's like a cookie that's got 1 bite out of it. And you're going to eat a giant bite. You're going to eat 4/5 of what's left. That means that after you're done eating it, you have eaten this much. So there's a little tiny bit left, but you have eaten. The bite you took was basically the whole cookie. And you took a giant bite. And so how much cookie did you eat? You ate about a whole cookie. You round it up. Okay. Now when we talk about dividing fractions, what they're going to give us is mixed numbers. They might say 38 divided by 3 1/2. Basically, you're just going to rewrite this as 38 divided by 4. You're going to round the mixed number. You're going to leave 38 alone. But then you're going to change 38 also. Once you've decided that you're going to divide it by 4, you have to find what's called a compatible number. If I spelled that right, it might be A. I'm going to look that up for you. Hold on. I'll pause this. I was right. It's compatible with an I. Sometimes I get confused about which vowel to use. Compatible numbers. This is when we take this 38 and we say, well, 38, 4 doesn't go into 38. 4 goes into 40, and 4 goes into 36. You could basically choose. You could decide to do 36 divided by 4 and get 9 using a compatible number here. Or you could choose to go, not that, 40 divided by 4 and get 10. Okay, you're going to use something similar to this. Now, because I rounded 32.5 up, I might choose this one, rounding down to 36. But if you chose this one, you'd still get it right. If we did that again, like 342 divided by 6 1/3. You're gonna start by rounding the fraction or the mixed number. You're gonna round that to, we're gonna say, oh, that's similar to, you don't like that, let's get rid of that junky line. There we go. Similar to 342 divided by 6. Okay, and then we're going to look for something that 6 goes with. 6 doesn't go very well with 342, but I know that 6 goes into 36, so we might use 36 with a 0 divided by 6. So 6 goes into 360. 360 divided by 6 is easy because it goes in 6 times, so we're just going to go 60. 6 times 6 is 36, plus that 0 equals 360. Now, it's always nice to multiply to get your division. So we're using fractions, but we're finding compatible numbers, a number that works together. 342 doesn't work with 6. 360 works nicely with 6, and it's not too far away from 342. That's not completely different, so it gets us a good estimate. Now, I don't want you to find the exact answer of this and then round it. I want you to use a compatible number and estimate. Okay, that should get you through your homework.